everyone. Good morning. I'm Olga Mashinsky-Waltman with Lemon Skies, and this is People of Substance. Today's guest is Lonnie Snyder, my old friend from the time I worked at Special Olympics. Lonnie is the Chief Information Officer at the 2022 Special Olympics USA Games. So he's in Florida. You can see his logo on his shirt. And I am so excited. I have so many questions for Lonnie, partially because I'm just excited to catch up with him and also talk about the intersection of technology and mission, some of the exciting things he's been up to. So just thrilled to have him, an old friend. So wonderful to see you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So how's Florida treating you? You made the move there a couple of years ago now, right?
Yeah, so I met our CEO, Joe Zalek, January of 2020 when he came up to SOI's headquarters in Washington, D.C., and to talk about the project and introduce a couple of people. And I was really struck with his passion. And when he talked about doing the biggest USA Games ever and building what we now know is sort of a fan engagement platform, like he talked about, a family member pulling their phone out and finding a live schedule and finding transportation and getting updates and being really interactive and way better than what the World Games did. So I should have asked him about his budget, but I didn't do that till after I took the job. But we had a couple conversations, and then it sort of worked out. I started remote in March of 2020, right as the COVID lockdown happened, and then moved down here at the end of May. Yeah, we've been here roughly 2 years, and we're 50 some days out from the games. It's exciting and scary and all at the same time.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite moments was there were a couple athletes. I can't remember which games they were, but somebody walked out with a jersey that had a logo of non-sponsoring companies. So I just remember somebody running to them with some tape to tape over it as they were about to walk out. So there's always something. That's a very technical solution to the problem.
Improvise, adapt, overcome. Every games has something, whether it's a tech challenge or people issues or someone showing up doing the wrong thing. You always just have to be ready for the unexpected and smile and know that no matter how crazy things get, it's for a really amazing purpose. And most people, when they haven't volunteered before and they come out and see a major event, it truly changes their lives. Our CEO is telling our team about the CEO of Jersey Mike's, Peter Crankgrove. So he volunteered for Special Olympics when he was 17 years old, and he carried that with him to this day. And now Jersey Mike's nationally donated $20 million to the game. So that's going to help get a lot of people here. So it's pretty cool.
So engage those 17-year-old volunteers, because some of them will
engage all volunteers, but some of them will turn into people that run large companies that make a tremendous impact.
So Lonnie, I don't think I've ever asked you this question. You didn't start your career in nonprofit space. So I've been actually dying to ask you, how did you make your way to Special Olympics and to nonprofit sector?
Well, I was working in another nonprofit, national intermediary that helps people with economic development and saving for college and buying a home and retiring. And the CFO at that organization was my boss, and he left there and moved over to SOI. And he called me and said, "I've got a mess. I need your help trying to fix a lot of financial systems. The system's not stable. We had our auditors here for a week and we couldn't use the computers for like 3 days." I was like, "Well, that's interesting. Hope you weren't paying them too much." And so we just had a couple conversations and it ended up working out. And I thought, oh, this is cool. It'd be a nice mission organization and, global, really amazing mission. And let's see how this works. And yeah, 8 years later, I was still there and probably would still be there if this opportunity for the USA Games hadn't come up.
Yeah. So, I wanted to ask you, with technology and Chief Information Officer and Chief Technology Officer, the role of technology, I feel like over the past decade and accelerating over the past couple of years has really changed. Like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, IT was sort of the ones plugging in computers and, server rooms. And it's really changed and expanded, and it's a much more strategic, visionary role and position in this day and age. So can you speak to that? And have you observed similar trend?
Absolutely. So 10 years ago, I think IT was viewed more as order takers and sort of doing the back of house stuff. And you always worked with finance professionals and worked on software and did things, but it was kind of like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtains. It just
Mhm.
kind of magically happened and no one knew what levers were being pulled. And now, the single greatest technology advance came from Apple introducing the iPhone. That sort of started the demise of the Blackberries and corporate email as people experienced it. So, thinking with a consumer mindset
Mhm.
and helping people realize all this new stuff that they never knew was possible before has sort of changed IT, right? Everyone expects everything instantly. What did you do in high school when you didn't have Google to ask questions? Oh my gosh, I went to a library, right? I haven't been
You
to a
must be older
library.
than me.
Probably by a few years. But just how people view and expect things, they
Mhm.
expect things immediately, right? The snap of your fingers. We've
Mhm.
gone from a institutional, this takes time, this takes hundreds of thousands of dollars and years to roll out projects to, okay, you've got 30 days, right? Spin
Mhm.
up a proof of concept and let's see how it works. Um, it just, the expectation of technology is different. Everyone expects the internet to always be on. When I
Mhm.
started in technology almost 26 years ago, people had dial-up modems, and there was no corporate email, or that was slowly being introduced with DSL lines that my kids don't know what they are. But it's just everything from how we're talking now to Zoom and Teams and
Mhm.
everything is just now normal when half a generation ago it wasn't. So that's just changed everyone's perspective and mindset. And now we think about how do we use that to deliver information faster? How do we
Yeah.
have a single source of truth for our event, right? The last five major Special Olympics events, this will be my 12th one, but the last big ones, you had multiple sources of truth. You had SpecialOlympics.org's website, you had the Games Organizing Committee site, you had sports information desks, and people were always looking at information, but it was a printout from yesterday when the schedule changed, right? So you
Mhm.
can't run after that person and give them a new paper because they already have the old paper, and they show up and they've got bad information. So having technology drive all the integrations and multiple systems into a single source of truth, that's really been our North Star that we've pushed through to deliver an amazing experience for athletes, but also for everyone who attends our games.
That makes sense. I remember in college, I had a summer job where I think 90% of my responsibilities included printing out emails for the executive that I was supporting. So literally, like just printing them out, keeping them in order. It was a pretty good gig, but um, so let me ask you this. So you've sort of been, it's interesting. So the games are more akin to a campaign in a way, right? Like it's
Mhm.
this massive event, build up to it. So it feels a little bit like a campaign. And you've been at the organization that sort of builds infrastructure that continues and goes on. What are some of the most exciting developments you're seeing, either in the space in general or some of the most exciting developments you're working with right now?
So right now we are working on this fan engagement app that is going to change the game for Special Olympics globally. So we had a couple of main charters or sort of pillars for our organization.
Mhm.
So we were going to be 100% athlete focused and driven. So we don't do anything unless we talk to athletes and they like the ideas. We're health focused, right? We're going to do
Mhm.
12,000 health exams. Since most people don't know, Special Olympics is the world's largest public health provider for people with intellectual disabilities. We want to leverage technology to the fullest. So we'll be the most technologically advanced USA Games, and our app and some of the other cool stuff we're doing is proof of that. And then finally, we want to have a legacy focus. So
Mhm.
everything we do has to pay it forward, not only to Florida, our host, but to the 2026 games, to other programs around the United States and North America, around the world. And we're doing that. So we've done this app that's worked for hire. So I've called it a fan engagement platform. We've got multiple data sources in. So you've got, 3 registration systems for all the various groups. We've got 8 different systems it's talking to.
Mhm.
And the end goal is to give a single source of truth and to make it really easy for end users to make updates without having IT involved. So we leverage Smartsheet, and we've done an amazing amount of stuff. I don't want to give a full commercial for them because they're not a partner, but we couldn't imagine life without Smartsheet and all the collaboration and real-time stuff that we can do. I talked with someone there, and they're like, "You're doing a lot of collaborating with people all across the world, not just in your organization. This is remarkable." So we're breaking the boundaries of stuff that hasn't quite been done before,
Mhm.
doing going further faster, and just you have to do because you're kind of a startup, so you don't have infrastructure, so you work on the cloud, and so you just need a good internet connection, you can go. But we started our app project really by talking to people, and I said
Mhm.
if I ever got this opportunity, we're going to talk to athletes and find out what they really needed, not in a tokenized way, but in a way to make sure that they were sort of the core center of the design of what we did. And we did a user research study, hired a company that pre-COVID worked with companies like REI. They would
Mhm.
go out onto the Appalachian Trail and put a phone in a stranger's hand and ask them for concept testing, swipe left, swipe right. So we did that. We talked to athletes to understand their experience before, during, and after either the last USA Games or World Games, what they liked, what they didn't like, challenges, what support they needed, what do we need to know to do to make them have an awesome experience and to have something they carried with them for the rest of their lives. And it was pretty cool and remarkable. There's a slide I don't have ready to throw up, but our head of delegation conference a couple months ago, people came in to run through our program, and I put this up, and there were like 12 key needs. And I just was stunned looking at a room of 100 and some odd people, going, "Look at this! These are what the Special Olympics athletes told us they need." But I would dare to say that every human on planet Earth needs these 12 things, right? Everyone wants to feel loved and supported. Everyone wants to have help finding purpose and meaning. Everyone wants to make lasting connections. Everyone needs help with logistics. And so we sort of bucketed that into 5 different key things that we could innovate on. Started doing 50 hand-drawn sketches, low fidelity, turned into 19 mid-fidelity, tested that to see what people liked, and settled on 3. And that's sort of what we launched. We launched this past fall in late August, early September. Did a couple minor things, but we just 2 days ago did a massive upgrade. So please check us out in the stores. If you search for 2022 USA Games, you'll see that. But you now have the ability to go see all the athletes that are coming to the games,
Yeah.
see what we're calling as a hero profile. You can send them cheers, it's all safe, but you can see how long they've been part of Special Olympics, what they're most looking forward to, stories of what they've overcome to get here. And this stuff has never been done before. 50 some years in, and it's we're doing it, right? It's pretty cool, and it's all work for hire. So we're getting the source code and we're going to give it back
Mhm.
to the community. We partnered with this really cool company, Jabil. It's sort of the world's largest manufacturer you've never heard of. They make part of the Magic Bands. They do lots of other stuff,
Okay. Mhm.
but they are building a team sports analytics system for us. So all of our 5 team sports, we're going to capture stats, do box scores, and then pull that back into the middleware that talks to those 8 systems, and then superimpose that back into the app and the website. So our athletes will feel like professional athletes, right? Just like any
Mhm.
professional sports or ESPN box scores. So this stuff, I mean, it sounds easy. It's not easy,
Yeah.
especially if you have a small budget, but it's super crazy exciting to think about what we're doing, the impact it's having on people's lives. We had a media event a couple of weeks ago for our 100 days out, and I met a young lady, Juliette Seuss, who's coming to our games as a triathlon athlete. And I pulled up, so I had the test version of the app on my phone, and I showed her profile to her mom and her. And I literally said, Juliette, look, this is you, right? This is your story. Everyone's going to be able to see what you've done to get here
Mhm.
and see what an amazing, awesome person you are. And even if you have family members that aren't here in Orlando when you compete, they're going to be able to support you and cheer you on from anywhere in the world. And she was just awestruck. And she's like, Mom, I'm in that guy's phone. I'm like, no, Juliet, the world is going to see how
Mhm.
amazing you are and what you can do. And her mom looked at me, tears streaming down her face. And she just like gave me a hug and said, God bless you. This is amazing. And I said, the great thing is, you guys are part of Special Olympics Florida. It's an amazing program. Afterwards, you're going to be able to use this here too, right?
Mhm.
So you won't have to worry about having a summer games and seeing a schedule on a website and everyone pulling out paper maps. This is going to be really, really super cool. Um, we have a built-in mapping component, and thanks to Google, who's done some really cool stuff, they've done sort of the Google live street view
Mhm.
around ESPN. So a lot
Yeah.
of our sports will be at ESPN's Wide World of Sports. You'll be able to do augmented reality, holding up your phone like people did 2 years ago with Pokemon Go, and
Mhm.
literally getting directions from the parking lot to where Healthy Athletes is going to be, to where the track and field events will be. And yeah, this again has never been done before. Super cool stuff. So it's exciting to get to do and to create and
Mhm.
to be doing literally the work of my life, and knowing that this is going to pay it forward for generations to come. It's amazing.
So the whole like everything you're describing, I mean, I may need like a little whiteboard to understand how all the bits fit together, but it just sounds so incredibly innovative and so cutting edge and so above and beyond anything that
Well,
I've ever
so
seen.
I remember my first Special Olympics event was in Korea in 2013, the World
Mhm.
Winter Games, and I was in an office, and the chairman of Coke came in, and he's had his three bodyguards around him. A team came in to make sure there was no bad people in the room. A team came in completely surrounding him. No one could touch him unless he extended his hand. And then a team came in after to sweep the room to make sure nothing was left behind. And so I watched the honor guest program. The honor guests are awesome. We need their support, and they're very important people, and they're great ambassadors for Special Olympics. But they get treated really nice, right?
Mhm.
A little nicer than you or I would. Maybe you're a more important person than I am, so you'd probably get a customized agenda and all that stuff. But I wanted every person coming to our games to feel like the most important person,
Mhm.
right? So you'll see when you download our app, it'll actually say, "Welcome, Lonnie.
Yeah.
Here's the weather in Orlando today." But you'll get your own personal schedule. You'll get to customize and tweak that, like some of the conferences and events you've probably been to, but probably on steroids. You'll get to follow athletes. You'll get ping notifications when things happen, when they win events and when their medal ceremonies will be. All this cool stuff that I think people were sort of dreaming of.
Mhm.
But when you talk to 200 people and you ask questions in different ways, and you remove the word impossible, you
Yeah.
start thinking about what could you really do, right? What if you pie in the sky, grand vision, what do you want to do? I had a recruiter say, well, what do you want to do next? I'm like, I want to change the world. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Like, well, tell me more. Well, are you gonna go form a nonprofit? You don't have to be part of a nonprofit to change the world. You just have to be passionate and want to help people. And when you think about people first and then things, everything else kind of falls into place, right? So regardless if you're talking to a Special Olympics athlete or a person on the street or anyone, that's people first and then things. And we started with this athlete-centered design, so everything is completely all circling the athletes. And our leadership team said, "That's great. What about the other 15 groups? And what about this group and the honored guests?" And
Mhm.
I was like, "Guys, trust me. Yeah, just trust me. If we do this right for the athletes, everyone's going to get the benefit, and this is going to be an amazing experience and no one forgets." So yeah, the cheers just started. Our social
Mhm.
team's supposed to do a post about that today, but so far, as of 2 hours ago, 60 athletes had already figured out how to claim their profiles and start doing it. We haven't told anyone about it, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll have to drop the link into the comments so that people can see where they can access the app. And you were talking about kind of being real sports, and if you have seen athletes playing sports, participating in sports, it is the fiercest, most real type of sports there are.
Mhm.
So, it's sort of like you have to see it to believe it. It really is everything and then some, incredibly inspiring. So, we'll drop the link in. But also, I love the involvement of the very people that are constituents, the very people that are being supported.
The
and
crazy
having
concept.
crazy, right? Ask the person who's ultimately benefiting, or who's ultimately you're trying to support, for their opinion, and in a meaningful way, not sort of in a tokenized check the box kind of way. So I love that.
We have an athlete input council, and like I said, we run everything by them. I've
Mhm.
been assigned to mentor this really awesome young man named Garrett Oots from the state of Washington. I met him a couple years ago at a Capitol Hill Day. As you
Mhm.
remember, Special Olympics
Oh yeah.
programs from across the country descend onto
Yep.
Washington, D.C. to tell their representatives how important Special Olympics programming is, and how they need their support, and how
Yeah.
healthy athletes and how Unified Champion Schools has truly changed their lives. I mean, I firmly believe if UCS had been around 30 years ago, we wouldn't have bullying in school today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're not going to get rid of bullying overnight or in a few more years. It's going to take another generation, but it's possible now
Yeah.
because people are being treated with respect and learning the right way to talk to people and how to treat people like people, right? People first, then things. So it's a crazy concept, but I met this young man and he gave the most brilliant elevator pitch to senators who I would be fumbling and trying to say my name and where I grew up and thank them for something, right? But he was so eloquent and told his story in a powerful, connecting way.
Mhm.
And when we were helping program select folks, I had the privilege of saying, "Hey, you should consider him." And he's so awesome. He's been instrumental in every step of all of this.
Mhm.
I sent him some stuff this morning for feedback, like, "What do you think about this healthy athlete's passport credential we're going to do?" And,
Mhm.
"Oh, here's what we're doing in the app on the wireframes. What do you think? Tell me." So Zappos is a partner, and they're going to give away several thousand pairs of shoes for people that go through
Fun.
5 screenings. But we're doing real-time queue, how many people are in line, like the DMV. We're doing a leaderboard to help people compete to get there to get
Mhm.
more people through. So all this really cool stuff that people have considered, they just haven't done. It's been a huge labor of love and time. And um, yeah, I've never worked harder in my life, but I've never been more fulfilled.
That's incredible. And the Capitol Hill Day, Lonnie, I don't know if you know this, but one of the Capitol Hill days that I staffed, I think I was about 9 months pregnant, and going to the Senate and House side. So I remember it very
Wow.
vividly in June or July, whatever month that was. So, but it was great. It was amazing. Um, so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to pivot a little bit, and we'll make sure to drop the link. I mean, my brain is literally like stars and are going off, and fireworks are going off just thinking about possibilities. It's really incredible. But I want to ask you about your kids. So your story, you have two grown children. Um, and then you and your wife adopted three children, Miles, Maddie, and Magnolia. Um, so I wanted to ask you, were you on this journey? So now you have three very young age children in the house. Was that your journey? Oh, there we go. Can you get it closer? Was that your journey all along, or did your time at Special Olympics impact where you are today?
So my wife is probably the most amazing person I've ever met in my entire life, and she has the biggest heart, and she's awesome. I am not awesome. I'm just a guy who got to marry up, maybe not economically, but definitely for someone who is a greater purpose in life. And so she really wanted to adopt push or expand our family through adoption. And I kept saying, "What's wrong with you? We're almost done."
Hmm.
And so, but she'd been following Reese's Rainbow and several other blogs for featuring kids with special needs for years. And leading up to the LA World Games in 2015, I traveled to Nebraska of all places, where Microsoft had helped us take some of the game systems to the cloud. And so we were doing a final dress rehearsal before the live event. And I got called in. Carolyn Chamberlain, the CEO of the program, said, "Hey, come on in to talk about the program and sort of what they do." And I heard a board member give, his 15-minute story of how he got involved, and it was heartbreaking and amazing and awesome at the same time. The super short version is, he and his wife were expecting their first child in their 30s, and he gets a call, "Come home now." And so he's like, waits 10 minutes and gets
Hmm.
another call, "Come home now." They
Hmm.
rush to the hospital, and They've called families coming in from across the state. It's kind of a big state. And everyone's buzzing in the delivery room, and all of a sudden everyone takes off and they take the baby away. And he's freaking out, going like, what
Mhm.
is going on? And someone finally came up and said, I'm so sorry, your son has Down syndrome.
Mhm.
And I was like, wow, that's like everyone in the room felt that 2x4 just smacked them in the face at that moment. And the person left. And so his wife was on the bed, kind of quietly sobbing. And
Mhm.
he was digging deep, trying to find something to comfort her, some words of hope or inspiration. And he said, I don't know where it came from, but what came out was, well, at least we have Special Olympics. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's profound. And he said, fast forward a couple years, they found a community of love, support, hope, and folks that helped him realize that everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And his world was going to be awesome because of this unique little boy. And at the time in 2015, he had just turned 8, so he just competed his first race and
Mhm.
got a medal. And the program partnered with local TV stations, so his
Mhm.
son was on TV. So his friends were like, "Hey, get me on TV."
Mhm.
And he said, no one will ever convince me children with special needs are any different than children that don't have them. And that was just like so wow. I mean, seeing healthy athletes in Korea for the first time changed my worldview. I came home from that event and apologized to my then millennial teenagers for telling them they were silly for thinking they could change the world.
Mhm.
Um, what Special Olympics does every day around the world changes hearts and lives, and sometimes physically saves lives. But that moment just stuck with me. And so I went home and told my wife that story. I was crying, like I'm getting emotional talking about it now.
Yeah.
And she was bawling, looked at me and said, okay. I'm like, uh-oh. A couple weeks later, she sent a link to Miles' blog story and said, what do you think? I think he's cute. I said, good. I've already talked to the caseworker. I'm like, whew. All right. So then we were in. I was talking to folks like Mark Edenson, who was an
Mhm.
executive at SOI.
Yeah.
He and his wife adopted their son when he was 2 weeks old with Down syndrome. I said, tell me everything you know. Talk to this person, talk to this person. And I'm taking copious notes as fast as I can. And he's like, but wait, listen to this and pay attention. I was like, okay. Adoption is like jumping through a series of windows. I'm like, that's a real image. Thanks. Am
Mhm.
I shattering the windows? What am I supposed to do with these windows? He goes, well, you've got to figure that out. But along the way, don't forget to stop and look beside and behind you and offer a hand up because you need to help people. Whatever you do on your journey, you need to help people. And we kind of took that to heart. So when Miles came home, my wife stopped working just to be home.
Mhm.
And she started doing 15 to 20 hours a week of advocacy work and helping
Yeah.
little kids find their forever homes with families all around the world. She's helped hundreds of families by now, and she's been to Taiwan 8 different times on these trips. And she's awesome. It took
Yeah.
her about 6 months after Miles was home to convince me that we should do it again. I was like, why
Mm.
don't we pay off the first adoption before we start this again? It's kind of
Yeah.
expensive. And everything just kind of worked out, right? And in Abu Dhabi, when I met Brandon Stanton, who writes Humans of New York, I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys have heard of that.
Mhm.
I hadn't heard of it. I just got a call from someone in the global comms team, said, I need you to meet with someone at 9 o'clock tomorrow. I'm like, okay. Thought I was talking about healthy athletes or something, and ended up telling him my story.
Mhm.
And uh, he said, okay, got it. And he literally paid most of the money for that adoption. So it just, everything works out at the right
Mm.
time, the right place for the right reason. I'm a big believer the universe has a way of taking care of things, and everything happens for a reason. Um, but yeah, so Miles was 14 months, Maddie was about 17 months. It just took longer.
Mhm.
And then Magnolia, that was really hard for me. And
Mhm.
again, my wife is a much better person than I am, but I said originally okay to Down syndrome, but not CP. It's like I don't think I can handle it. That's too much. And she showed me pictures of children that were labeled with cerebral palsy who just had leg braces and they were fine. It was like, huh, I guess I need to get out of my box and think about my unconscious bias, right, of all the stuff that I grew up with
Mhm.
and stigma. And yeah, it was a couple months after we brought Maddie home, and she was just like didn't want to nap one day, and she was just being really, really zesty. So I like to say,
Mhm.
when kids get when they aren't
Yes, they
napped and they
do.
need. And so I was rocking her, and she finally fell asleep. And my wife looked at me and said, "Magnolia will never have that. She'll die in an institution." And that was like a knife in the heart.
Mhm.
And so, okay, you know, we've sort of instilled a spirit of service in our older kids, and you just have to help people, no
Yeah.
matter where you are in life. It's the right thing to help someone. If it's helping someone across the street, helping someone push a cart or lift something, you have to help people. And so I said, okay, I don't know how this will financially work because I don't have any money right now. I moved and I took a new job, and I'm now making less money, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so we figured it out, and she actually came home Christmas Day this of 21. So COVID made things different, more expensive, and the normal 1 week process was a month. So I stayed home with Miles and Maddie. My wife went to Taiwan. But yeah, that's a little bit about our adoption story. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to need a walk to recover from this. I mean, this is just so emotional and so personal. So thank you for sharing that. And, you and I are friends outside of LinkedIn. We're friends on Facebook, et cetera. So I get to see photos of the kiddos. And it's so incredible and so touching. And, I just have the utmost respect and admiration for both of you. And not just taking care of children that otherwise would not have a family and have significant special needs, but also to be, as you said, towards the end of your journey with kids grown and just about out of the house or out of the house.
It was
Instead
starting
of,
all over again. The first
yeah,
diaper
starting
I
again.
I put on backwards, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? This isn't working.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm an idiot, right? So it was different,
yeah,
and you figure it out. And children are children regardless of their ability level.
yeah,
Miles taught me soon that even though all three of them are not verbal, um, but when I would come home and Miles wanted my attention, like the guy from Nebraska said, he's just like any other kid.
yeah.
He'll pull at you, and if you're not moving, he'll twist your finger and then drag you into the next room. He'll jump off the couch onto a dog or pull something off a shelf. Or kids know when you're on the phone and you're talking to your significant other, and they have a way of figuring it out. So
They just know.
yeah.
Lonnie, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're with the 50-day countdown. You're incredibly busy, so I'm just grateful for your time and sharing. I mean, we sort of went from this futuristic vision of how things can really be thanks to technology, which is just so inspiring. And then, I have to admit, I am a little bit feeling emotional after hearing the story of how the kids came home to. So thank you for sharing that. And I may be privately pinging you to see if your wife would be willing to be one of our guests to keep talking about the subject and her advocacy
Yeah.
efforts.
She'll tell you the other side, and she'll say I'm selfish, and I am. I'm just a guy. I'm just selfish. I want things life to be easy. I have an iPhone because I just want one thing in my life to work, right, and just to be easy. But life is hard. It's messy. It's complicated, and kids have a way of making things really interesting.
Mhm.
So every day is a unique journey, and it's chaotic every day at my house. Between three little kids and two big dogs in a much
Sure.
smaller place than we had in Virginia, but it's all worth it.
Yeah. Thank you, Lonnie.
Thank you.